Imagine a neighborhood of houses, all built in the modern style. That style is not unique to any house, but it is shared. This modern style is considered as class attribute, for example. But, we, but each house has its own color and it has its own number of rooms. This referring to instance attributes. In practice, let us define house class. Class house. Now we are in position to make all houses having the same style. This same style is required to be stated as a class attribute, which is defined next to the header class, meaning outside of any method. So the style of our house needed to be modern style. And the other attributes, which are known as instance attributes, are defined under the constructor method or any other method under the class. For example, let us define our instance variables under our constructor. If init self color rooms. Recall this example from the previous video. This is nothing but constructor in Python. Now these parameters color and rooms are assigned to the instance variables which are referred by self color self rooms. This self allows us to have unique values for each object is created under this class. Now this attribute is nothing but class attribute which it can be shared by all instances of the class and by the class by itself. And these two are instance attributes. This instance attribute can also be accessed by the instance of the class, but the class attributes can be accessed by all the instance objects of the class and by the class by itself. Now let us see how these each attributes can be accessed. For example, let us see how to access the class attribute style. Accessing class attribute. This can be accessed print by the class house class object by itself, such as house style. While this code retrieves modern, this is the output, right? I am accessing the value of this class attribute through the class object by itself. Recall that in Python everything is object, right? In this context, this house is an object by itself. So this style can be accessed through the house class object by itself, or can be accessing the class attribute via the objects instances of the class, meaning that via each house created. For example, let us create first the instance of the house class. Let us create house 1. House 1 can be created by calling the class house, then followed by opening and closing parentheses, and we need to pass the values of the two parameters color and rooms. Now let us pass blue color of our house to be built and having 4 rooms. Another house 2 can be created through the same fashion, having gray color and having 6 number of rooms. Now let us access the class attribute through this instance. For example, print house 1 style. Print house 2 style. Right, let me run this one. Wow, both gives us the same value, which is modern, right? Because this class attribute is shared attribute that can be accessed both by the class by itself and by the instance of the class. And how can we modify this class attribute? Modifying the class attribute. Class attribute can be modified as follows. We modify house style. For example, let us make ancient. Right? We are changing our houses from modern style to ancient. Now, the style of our houses is now changed. This changes every instance and the class by itself varies. For example, let us access once again the style of the houses. For example, print house 1 style, print house 2 style, print house style. Right? The first two sentences are accessing the new style through the instance of the object. House 1, house 2 are instance of the class house, whereas the third one is the house by itself. House by itself in this context is object. This all before the dot are all objects, but this one is class. In its naming, these house 1, house 2 are objects, newly created objects of the house. Now, what value will be printed here? Is this modern will be printed or this ancient? Ancient will be printed because that house style modern has been changed into or modified into ancient. Now the house is to be created based on this modification is to be built based on this style, ancient style. Okay.